Your mother trapped your father, my mother-in-law Eleanor announced to my 10-year-old son Jacob, her voice carrying across the kitchen with the casual cruelty of someone who'd been waiting years to plant this poison in fertile soil. He could have done so much better. Married someone from a proper family, had a real career instead of supporting your mother's little dreams. Jacob found me an hour later, his small face twisted with confusion and hurt, asking the question that shattered something inside me. Mommy, did you trap Daddy? Is it true you ruined his life? Let me tell you how my mother-in-law's cruelty became the catalyst for the most important moment of my marriage. I met Thomas Whitmore at a coffee shop in Boston. I was 23, working as a waitress while trying to finish my nursing degree. He was 25, fresh out of Harvard Law, starting at his family's prestigious firm. We existed in different universes that happened to intersect over a spilled latte and an apology that turned into a conversation that turned into dinner that turned into forever. The Whitmores did not approve. Thomas's family was old New England money. Generations of lawyers, judges, and politicians whose names appeared on buildings at universities I couldn't afford to attend. His mother Eleanor had mapped out his entire life before he was born. The right schools, the right career, the right wife from the right family. I was none of those things. I grew up in public housing in Dorchester, daughter of a single mother who cleaned offices at night and slept during the days I was at school. I'd clawed my way to community college through scholarships and multiple jobs. I had nothing to offer except myself, no connections, no pedigree, no dowry of social capital. To Eleanor, I was a trap, a pretty distraction who'd ensnared her brilliant son before he could fulfill his potential. She'd said as much to Thomas before our wedding. She's after your money, Eleanor had warned him. Girls like her always are. Thomas married me anyway. 12 years later, we had 3 children, a home filled with love, and a mother-in-law who'd never stopped believing I was temporary. The incident happened at Eleanor's annual summer gathering. Every August, she hosted an elaborate party at the family's Cape Cod estate, a weekend of carefully curated networking disguised as family bonding. I attended out of obligation, spending most of my time keeping our children entertained while Thomas navigated his relatives' expectations. Jacob, our oldest, had wandered into the kitchen looking for a snack. I was upstairs helping his younger sisters with their swimsuits. I didn't know Eleanor was there. I didn't know she'd been drinking. I didn't know she'd finally decided to stop pretending. What I knew was that my son came to me with tears streaming down his face, asking if I'd trapped his father. Where did you hear that? I managed to ask, my voice steady despite the earthquake inside me. Grandma Eleanor. She said you tricked Daddy into marrying you. She said he could have been somebody important if you hadn't ruined everything. I knelt down to his level, wiping his tears with hands that wanted to shake. Sweetheart, that's not true. Daddy and I fell in love. Nobody tricked anyone. But Grandma said. Grandma is wrong. Sometimes grown-ups say things that aren't true, even grandmas. Jacob's face crumpled further. She said I should know the truth. She said I'm old enough to understand what kind of person you really are. Thomas found us in the hallway outside our guest room. His expression shifted from curiosity to concern to something darker as Jacob repeated what Eleanor had said. I watched my husband's jaw tighten, watched the controlled anger build behind his eyes. The particular fury of a man who'd spent 12 years deflecting his mother's cruelty and just discovered she'd redirected it at his child. Jacob, Thomas said quietly, kneeling beside our son. What Grandma told you is wrong. Completely wrong. Do you understand? But why would she lie? Because Grandma has some problems understanding what makes people happy. She thinks money and status are what matter. She doesn't understand that love is more important than any of that. So Mommy didn't trap you? Thomas glanced at me, something shifting in his expression. Stay here with your sisters for a few minutes, okay? Mom and I need to talk to the family. He took my hand and led me downstairs. The gesture was protective, deliberate, a statement before the statement. Thomas, what are you going to do? What I should have done years ago. The living room held approximately 30 Whitmores and adjacent relatives. Eleanor sat in her usual throne-like armchair, holding court with Thomas's aunts about some charity gala. His father Richard stood by the fireplace, nursing scotch and discussing investments with Thomas's cousin Bradford. The room hummed with the particular energy of people performing wealth for each other. Thomas walked to the center of the room. Conversations trailed off as people noticed something different in his posture, a rigidity that didn't match casual family gatherings. I need everyone's attention, he said. Family meeting. Now. Eleanor looked annoyed. Thomas, we're in the middle of. Now, mother. The single word silenced her. In 12 years, I'd never heard Thomas speak to her with that tone. Neither had anyone else, apparently. The room went completely still. What's this about? Richard asked, setting down his scotch. This is about something my mother said to my 10-year-old son today. Thomas's voice carried across the room, controlled but cutting. She told Jacob that his mother trapped me, that I could have done better, that Caroline ruined my life. Murmurs rippled through the room. Eleanor's face cycled through surprise, defensiveness, and something that looked almost like satisfaction, as if she was pleased her message had finally been delivered. I was simply telling the boy the truth, she said. He's old enough to understand how the world works. He's 10. He's not old enough to understand why his grandmother would try to make him hate his mother. I wasn't trying to make him hate anyone. I was explaining reality. You had such potential, Thomas. Such promise. And you threw it away for what, mother? For the woman I love? For the children I adore? For the happiest years of my life? Eleanor's expression flickered. You don't know what happiness could have been. If you'd married properly. I did marry properly. Thomas's voice rose slightly. I married the woman who makes me laugh every morning, who challenges me to be better, who built a nursing career while raising 3 children, who gives more love in one day than this entire family has shown in my entire life. The silence that followed was devastating. Thomas wasn't finished. Mom, you're right about one thing. Caroline did trap me. He paused, letting the words land. She trapped me into the happiest years of my life. She trapped me into understanding what actually matters. She trapped me into being a father who's present, a husband who's devoted, a man who measures success by the people who love him rather than the zeros in his bank account. Eleanor's face had gone pale. Thomas, I'm not done. He took a breath. For 12 years, I've listened to your comments. The subtle digs, the passive-aggressive questions, the way you treat Caroline like a temporary inconvenience who'll eventually be replaced. I've excused it, deflected it, told myself you'd eventually come around. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to control me. There's a difference. He turned to face the room. All of you. Every Whitmore who's ever looked at my wife like she doesn't belong. Every cousin who's whispered about where she came from. Every aunt who's wondered aloud when I'd come to my senses. Several relatives had the grace to look uncomfortable. Others stared at their drinks. Caroline didn't trap me. I chose her. I chose her when she was a waitress working 3 jobs to pay for nursing school. I chose her when she had nothing to offer except kindness, intelligence, and a heart bigger than this entire estate. I chose her over the appropriate women you paraded in front of me, over the social climbing and the networking marriages and the loveless arrangements you call proper. He reached for my hand, pulling me to stand beside him. And if you ever speak to her or my children that way again, any of you, we're done. No more Cape Cod summers. No more holiday appearances. No more pretending this family is something it isn't. Eleanor stood slowly, her composure cracking. You would abandon your family? Your heritage? For her? I would protect my family. My real family. The one I chose and built and love. Thomas met his mother's eyes without flinching. You have never once acknowledged what Caroline has accomplished. She graduated nursing school while pregnant. She became charge nurse at one of the best hospitals in Boston. She saved lives while you've been counting social invitations. Those achievements don't change where she came from. No, they don't. She came from nothing. She built everything herself. That makes her more impressive than anyone in this room, including me. Richard stepped forward. Son, let's all calm down. I am calm, Dad. This is me being very, very calm while explaining that my mother poisoned my child against his own mother today. If I weren't calm, this conversation would look very different. She was just expressing concern. She told a 10-year-old that his mother trapped his father and ruined his life. That's not concern. That's cruelty. And it stops now. The drive home was quiet. The children slept in the back seat, exhausted from sun and swimming and the emotional undercurrents they'd sensed but didn't fully understand. Thomas drove, his hands steady on the wheel, his jaw still tight with residual anger. You didn't have to do that, I finally said. Yes, I did. Your mother will never forgive you. Then she'll have to live with that. He glanced at me briefly before returning his eyes to the road. I've spent 12 years trying to keep peace between my family and my family. I thought if I was patient enough, diplomatic enough, they'd eventually accept you. But they weren't going to accept you, Caroline. They were waiting for me to fail, for us to fail, so they could say they were right all along. Maybe they were right. Maybe you could have. Don't. His voice was firm but gentle. Don't let her poison reach you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I knew it when I met you. I know it now. Our children will know it for the rest of their lives. Jacob asked if I trapped you, and I'll spend however long it takes making sure he understands the truth. That I pursued you. That I proposed to you. That I wake up every day grateful you said yes despite knowing what my family would put you through. I felt tears building. I never wanted to come between you and your mother. You didn't. She did that herself. By refusing to see you for who you are, she created this situation. Today she finally went too far. Eleanor called the next morning. I was making breakfast when Thomas's phone rang. He answered, listened for approximately 30 seconds, and said, "When you're ready to apologize to Caroline and Jacob directly, you can call back. Until then, we have nothing to discuss." He hung up. She was crying, I observed. She should be. She's your mother, Thomas. She's also someone who tried to turn my son against you. Those two facts have to coexist, and right now the second one matters more. The children came downstairs, still sleepy, unaware that anything had fundamentally shifted. Jacob paused at the kitchen door, looking at us with the particular watchfulness of a child who's absorbed more than adults realize. "Dad, what you said yesterday at Grandma's house." "Yes. Did you mean it? That mom makes you happy." Thomas crossed the kitchen and knelt before his son. "Jacob, your mother is my favorite person in the world. She's brave, she's kind, and she's the reason our family exists. Nothing Grandma or anyone else says changes that. But Grandma seems so sure. Grandma is wrong about a lot of things. She thinks money and family names are what make people valuable. But you know what actually makes people valuable? What? How they treat others. How they love. How they show up when things are hard." He glanced at me. "Your mom showed up for me when I didn't deserve it. She loved me when my family made it difficult. She built this family with me against every obstacle. That's not trapping someone, Jacob. That's choosing someone. And I chose her. Best decision I ever made." Jacob nodded slowly, processing. Then he crossed to me and wrapped his arms around my waist. "I'm sorry I asked if you trapped Dad. Don't apologize for asking questions, sweetheart. Always ask questions. Just make sure you're asking people who tell you the truth." The reconciliation took 3 months. Eleanor finally requested a meeting, not a family gathering, but a private conversation at a neutral restaurant. Thomas insisted I come. I think he wanted witnesses. She looked older than I'd ever seen her, diminished somehow, as if the confrontation had removed something structural from her bearing. "I owe you an apology," she said to me, the words clearly costing her something. What I said to Jacob was wrong. I let years of disappointment cloud my judgment. "Disappointment in what?" Thomas asked. "In me? In my choices? In losing control?" Eleanor's voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. "You were supposed to carry on everything your father and I built. You were supposed to value the things we valued. When you chose Caroline, it felt like a rejection of everything we'd given you. It wasn't a rejection. It was an evolution. I found something more important than social status and family legacy. I found love. I found happiness. I found a partner who makes me better." Thomas leaned forward. "That should have made you happy, Mom. That your son found what most people spend their whole lives looking for." Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. "I wasted so much time," she finally said. "Waiting for something to go wrong. Waiting to be proven right. And instead," she looked at me directly, "instead, you built a beautiful family. You became successful in your own right. You proved me wrong about everything, and I was too stubborn to admit it." "What changed?" I asked. 3 months without my grandchildren. 3 months realizing I might have destroyed my relationship with my son. 3 months understanding that being right didn't matter if it meant being alone. It wasn't a perfect apology. It wasn't complete accountability. But it was something, a crack in the wall she'd built over 60 years of believing certain things about worth and value and what made people matter. That was 2 years ago. Eleanor and I aren't close. We probably never will be. But we've reached an understanding. She sees the children regularly, treats me with genuine respect, and has never again questioned whether I belong in her family. Last Christmas, she gave me a gift that surprised everyone. A framed photograph from Thomas's and my wedding day, one I'd never seen before. In it, Thomas is looking at me while I'm looking at the camera, and his expression is pure, unguarded love. I took this, Eleanor admitted. And I never showed anyone because it proved everything I didn't want to believe. What did it prove? That he never looked at anyone the way he looked at you. Not before, not since. She paused. I'm sorry it took me so long to see what was always obvious. I hung that photo in our bedroom, where I see it every morning. A reminder that love is visible to anyone willing to look. And a reminder that sometimes, the people who doubt us the most eventually become witnesses to our truth.